Erin, great to see you.
Yes,
Thanks
great to
for
be here, Paul.
thanks for making a bit of time to come and have a chat. I know you've been jetting around the world doing exciting things, so I appreciate you making a bit of time for me. Let me kick off with something that you said to me when we spoke. I mean, it's some weeks back now, that kind of stuck in my mind. You said to me, I'm just checking my notes here. We provide data that you can't get anywhere else. Now that must mean that you've got something really exciting. Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so basically with Ask Polly, what we're doing is we are the key here is in how we curate the data, how we sample the data, so that because we do just to back up, we do public opinion research, right, using AI, and we get the data from social media, from online posts and things like that. The key here, though, is that if you just take raw data from social media, you will be overrepresented in influencers, foreign agitators, bots. I
Yeah.
mean, this is not clean data, right? So that ability to you have to not only be able to filter those things out, which everybody says I want to filter those things out, but you also have to make sure that you're listening to people in the proportion to which they are present in the population. So you do that by looking at census data, because if you just take raw data, again, you might be overrepresented in young people and white people. So we have to look at the census data, make sure we're getting that right distribution of the population. And that's what makes our data unique. And we have a patent on how to do that on social media.
And just give us an example of some of the applications. I mean, where would this, I mean, I get the logic of what you're saying. Give me an example of some of the places that people would want to use that data and what the sort of things they'd want to use it for.
We we have a lot of government clients who want to use it to understand the needs of the population,
Right.
because often governments are lobbied by special interest groups,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
business groups, the charities, what have you, saying this is what people want. But you're always better off hearing directly from your constituents, and your constituents are talking online. That's where those conversations are happening. If you say, well, we're going to have a meet the politician on Thursday at 7 p.m. Well, you know what? I'm watching the Habs game Thursday at 7 p.m. Everybody's busy. You're taking your kids to gymnastics, whatever it is. But people talk online. That's where you need to be hearing them. It's a very democratizing thing. So government is a big one. Not for profits who want to bring data to government, because again, if you are trying to influence policy change, you do need to have data, and this is data that in some cases you can't get anywhere else. Like I mentioned, like if you're doing phone surveys, let's say you're doing a study on transgendered people, well, you would have to call a lot of people on the phone before you find someone
Yeah.
who's transgendered and wants to speak to you, and are they representative of their population? Well, online it's very easy for us to find those populations and to do it cost effectively and quickly, so that you have that information. And then of course it's brands, right, who want to use it to get very quick information, timely information on how people are feeling about them, if there are changes, what's causing the changes, if they have, heaven forbid, a scandal, what should they, we do message testing so we can look at their audience and see what their audience has responded well to in the past to help them message their way through difficult conversations.
And let me pick up that last point about the sorts of things you can do. I mean, if you like, what sort of questions can you answer for people? I mean, just give us a flavor of the sorts of things that people come to you to find out.
The great thing is we're finding new things every day that we can ask Polly. So let me give you, so you, for sure you can do your standard survey questions, right? What kind of car are you looking at buying? Why won't you buy this car? Those types of things. But we're discovering when customers come to us, that's why we always say, give us your problems and we'll see if Polly can solve them. We were challenged by the Canadian government a few years ago to see if we could detect foodborne illness in the population accurately. Because as you may know, lots of attempts have been made to do this, Google flu, these types of things. And we didn't know if Polly could accurately detect foodborne illness and be useful. Um, she was extremely useful. So happy to report. We did this study. We're coming up with a new paper in a scientific journal, peer reviewed, that looks at how Polly was able to not only identify um, we had a salmonella poisoning here in Canada in December of 2023. Polly was able to identify that there was a salmonella outbreak, and more importantly, identify the source of it so that we could get that
Right.
those cantaloupes off the shelves. So we used Polly to redesign the public transit system in the city of Quebec. We delivered
Wow.
that
Yeah,
paper.
so sorry, that's really interesting. I mean, just give us a sense of how you did that. I mean, to say we helped redesign the transport system, I mean, that's quite a big thing, isn't it? I mean, just give
Yes.
us a sense of the role that you guys played in that. I mean, how did that work?
Sure, absolutely. So the way the government used to, it's called a uh, origin destination research study. And
Right.
the way they used to do it would be to call households and ask them about their transit journeys. Now, those phone surveys had pretty big limitations. First of all, cost. So they would call them in the month of September and really use September as the basis for all transit planning throughout the year. Because we were using social media and we were able to do it for a percentage, like I think it was like 5% of the cost of the phone research. We were able to do a whole year with the budget that we had to survey people throughout the year, to survey people who lived in Quebec and people who are visiting Quebec because it's a high tourist area. We get a lot of European and American tourists in Quebec City. So we were able to look at how tourists work, go around the city. But most importantly, what was really interesting is we found that when you called into households, they would often ask to speak to head of household. And what we discovered with the research is if you ask the spouse or the wife, how does your spouse, what route do they take to get to the office? The spouse was wrong most of the time.
Right.
So and figuring out, because before they were saying, okay, where do you live and where do you work? And they were assuming that was the journey. But now we're seeing that people take, they go to the daycare and they drop the child off, and a different parent picks the child up. So these are different routes and things like that. And we were able to do not just work, but also social things like people going to the movies. And we were able to track all of that and how transit needs change depending on the usage. So it was really, really complex work because you had to figure out through social posts where people work. And by the way, we didn't collect names or anything like that, but we knew that we had unique identifiers and unique people.
And
And
just give me an example of, as it were, the impact of that knowledge. I mean, how did the system change as a result of that? I mean, just give us an example, just to show us the way it works, if you like.
yeah, well, they ended up changing routes that were underperforming. The biggest impact that we found was for low income riders
Yeah.
because they really relied on transit, or should have been able to rely on transit a lot, but the routes weren't working for them in terms of just the simple things sometimes where, okay, nobody's taking this bus. And so they assume they don't want that bus or it's not needed. But when you get down and you look and you see, well, the reason they're not is because they have to wait for their child to get the school bus, and the city bus is coming before the school bus, and they can't leave their 5-year-old there or don't want to. So just things like that, like it was sometimes it's inconvenient times or the route it was taking. And so we really, the biggest impact was in those low income areas where bus ridership was lower than expected, and we were able to figure out why and to change those things.
And those are
And
really important factors, aren't they, for those individuals?
yes, yes, it was life changing because now you can take different jobs, that maybe you
Yeah.
were turning down before because you couldn't get to the job or you couldn't get there, at the right time and things like that. And they said they would never go back to doing phone surveys after doing this type of
Oh, wow,
research.
that's impressive. And I mean, how did you? I mean, it's an odd career move to set up a tech company to collect data about transport
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, how did you get onto this kind of path? I mean, it looks to me to be quite an interesting area, but how did you kind of end up doing this?
Yeah, I think it was like a moment of insanity.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would never go back. Like I love it's been the best decision I ever made. But it was, I was working in market research, and we were doing phone surveys and things like that. And I could really see the gaps and the problems in what we were doing. I could go into some detail about it, but the science, the science is, social media is enabling us to do such better market research that when you think back honestly to phone surveys, to me are like the Stone Age now. But I used to work in that space. I could see, because it was so expensive and because you get the survey back and you have more questions, but you can't really dive into and ask those more questions. So I really saw the problems in it. I knew that the future was in social. I knew that's where the conversations were happening. Tried many times to do that research properly, but again, the problem with social is that it's such dirty data that it wasn't until actually I met what became my co-founder at the University of Ottawa, who was doing pioneering research in mental health using social media data, and he had pioneered a way to sample that data properly. And that's the key thing here. You have to be able to get audiences and get people who are representative of the group you're trying to measure, whether that's a general population of a neighborhood or a city, postal code region. We can do all of those with Ask Polly, or whether it's an audience, like I said, of transgender people or vegetarians or whoever you're trying to measure. They need to be representative and not one person, or which is difficult with phone survey research to get that representation, because as you probably know, people aren't taking phone surveys anymore. And the people who do take them are like professionals of phone survey. They're people who they're a certain type of personality. And so you're hearing from the same people over and over again.
So what you're saying is that your technology is the kind of next level up in terms of surveying. It gives you better data. It's easier to do it. It's more efficient. I mean, seems to me there's a whole raft of reasons why, the technology that you've developed will help people get better intelligence. I mean, that seems to me to be the step change that you brought about.
Yeah, think about this. We hadn't had an innovation in market research since Gallup invented the phone survey, right?
Wow,
And
really?
that was in the 50s. Like it was great at the time. It meant that you didn't have to walk door to door and ask people. But so the phone surveys were a great innovation at the time that Gallup brought them in. But it's 2026 now. It's the new innovation is using AI and social media, and you can get way, way better, more detailed and meaningful surveys doing it this way.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. In terms of where you're going with this, I mean, it's a great piece of technology. Give us a sense of what you're building towards. I mean, where do you want to get to with this?
Well, the main goal is to make sure that voices are heard. So as I mentioned, there's right now, it's lobbyists get heard. They have powerful
Yeah.
people who can get meetings with politicians. We want to make sure that the government is hearing directly from
Right.
people, unfiltered. Not every individual, because you can't be making policy to that, but understanding, like I said, with the transit system, it was an amazing, amazing accomplishment. We'd love to do that for every city, to make sure that you are providing the service that people need and can use, right? And at a price they can afford, because that's the other challenge with transit in some cities. It's not realistic. The minute you have one or two kids, you're better off using a car, because paying for individuals becomes too expensive. So there's a lot of innovation that's needed there. But we want to be at the forefront of that innovation in how we serve people, how governments serve people, how businesses serve people. So those two main groups.
Yeah. And what would you say are the big opportunities sort of going forward? I mean, what sort of things are you really excited about?
Well, I'm really excited about the big projects we're doing, like the foodborne illness, which literally saves lives. We can get
Mhm.
these vectors off the shelves early. Then, in this case,
Yeah.
we go from 60 deaths to 7 deaths. The more we can reduce it. We've done work in suicide prevention research. Again, the smart cities is really exciting for me. And then for businesses, it's helping our customers better understand the needs of their customers, and to understand why customers are leaving them or not coming to them, and so that they can provide better service for their customers.
Yeah. I mean, it's what you're doing is empowering businesses to do things better, aren't you?
Yeah, and and being that, so one of the things that, like, I know from being having been in market research and working in agency before I did this, nobody is going to know your business better than you. Okay,
Mm.
so when you outsource your research, which honestly is your gold, I mean, that is,
Yeah.
why would you outsource your research? Like, the reality is, as much as an agency will say, okay, we're going to dedicate this person to you and somebody else will work with your competition, fine. There's always going to be a bit of bleed, though. People leave, they go to other companies. I mean, they retain the knowledge of your company. But even if you don't worry about that, nobody is going to know your business better than you. And I say this to our customers, like, we will coach you in how to use Polly and how to use
Mm.
the tech, but you have to know what questions to ask, right? Sure, I can do it, but I'm never going to do it as well as you. So I fundamentally don't believe that research is something you should outsource to an agency. This is your gold here. Learn how to do this. This should be a competence you have in
Mm.
your company. Okay. Not the minute you outsource it, you're really outsourcing
Yeah.
something very fundamental and important. So learn to use this tech. The tech is there now that you don't have to outsource it. Your team can use it and you get the results immediately. You don't, not a month from now when
Mm.
it's too late, immediately. So you learn immediately how to message your customers, um, how to price effectively. Should I be using dynamic pricing? If so, how should it work? Right? Yes, I've got these
But
algorithms that tell me this.
what you're saying is it creates a faster feedback loop, really.
Yes, and you need that today. Like,
Yeah.
you absolutely must have that. That it's not just a competitive advantage, it's actually essential.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you about being the CEO. So, I mean, I describe it as the age of AI now. That's the age that we're in, if you like, is the age of AI. I mean, what does it mean to be a CEO in the age of AI? I mean, what's your take on that?
I think it's completely exciting. To me, there's no other place I would want to be. It's a leadership position in the leading tech, the most important tech in the world right now, no matter where you are, the world over. It's not something we're only doing in Canada or that's only happening in Britain, or it's everywhere in the world. Um, your ability to adopt and use AI, whether you're a government, a business, a not-for-profit, an individual, even individuals. If you can use AI to help you find a job, like, I have friends who have made little AIs that go out and look for jobs that they're
Yeah,
suited for their kids and all
yeah.
of that, and bring it back. Plan your holiday. I just came back from a holiday. I had an AI go out and find the best hotels, the best
Wow.
price. I give it my criteria. So just personally, no matter who you are, your life is going to be, there's a lot of fear around it, but honestly, I think the people who've used it and embrace it, are finding it's unlocking creativity. Things before that, you forget about Ask Polly, just other AI tools is enabling people to express themselves in ways they couldn't before. And I've seen people post online, like, I don't know, you've probably seen it, the Tom Cruise and other actor fighting each other on a rooftop that AI made, and they're saying, oh, now AI is going to make movies. Well, no, Tom Cruise is a brand because Tom Cruise built that brand, right? And you're
Yeah,
still going to need to build that brand in the age of AI. It's still the story matters. It's not Tom Cruise's face. It's Tom Cruise's history that
yeah.
makes you
And
want to watch his movies.
let me pick up that point. Has AI changed the way you make decisions? Would you say you're better informed now as a result of the technology? In what way has it changed the way you do things?
Yeah, it enables me to do things a lot faster. So the things that used to slow me down, right? Making PowerPoint presentations, for
Mhm.
example, right? You can do that almost instantaneously now with AI. I don't have to be an artist. I don't have to send it off to somebody to make it prettier. I don't, we can do that all now. Research, like quick questions that I want to get answers to, I always back it up and check it, but it's much, much faster. But it doesn't change the bigger decisions on how you compete. I think I can tell something that's been written by AI a mile away. I still prefer human written things. So there's knowing when to use it and when not to use it, but it has definitely made my life and my work so much more, not just easier, but more pleasant because I can focus on the things I like doing.
Yeah. And to come back to your point about, how businesses kind of create a competitive edge, would you say that you've got a sort of a collaborative mindset? Does that influence your approach?
To business.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, do you feel it's that the collaboration plays a bigger role because of the things that you've been talking about?
Yeah, I think if you don't have a collaboration mindset, I don't see how you succeed in business, to be honest. It's all about collaboration. I think what we're going to see, AI is going to enable for people who want to. It's a lot easier to start up a company now.
Yeah.
It's and it's the tools give you that ability to express yourself in ways you couldn't before. You needed a lot of money if you wanted to make interesting videos. You still have to have the story, you still have to have the content. But if you don't have a cameraman, you don't have a director, these things cost money. Well, now you can express yourself much more easily and readily. And if you want to start a company but you don't understand a lot of finance and all of that, well, you can go online and research it much more quickly and get help from AI that would help you do that. Same thing with law and all of this. It's these things that slowed people down or maybe prevented them from starting a business. These things are all becoming accessible now. And I do think I counsel my own kids and young people I meet start a business. I met a young man once. I was speaking at a conference just a couple of weeks ago, and he was asking me what businesses he should invest in. He had some money.
Right.
And I said, you should invest in yourself. He said, oh, that's risky. And I said, well, it's actually a lot more risky to invest in somebody else or
Yeah.
to even take a job these days. Be the owner of the business, be an owner of capital. That's kind of the future, I think.
Yeah. And in terms of how the business has been developing, I mean, have you had moments where the the growth of the business has kind of exceeded your expertise?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was from the very beginning, yes. So,
Give us an example.
well, as I mentioned, a lot of our innovation comes from our customers, right? Who
Right.
say, "Can you do this?"
Yeah.
And you mentioned the collaboration piece. Well, we didn't know if we could do it, right? And so collaborating with universities, we do a lot of collaboration with universities, with
Right.
professors, where we say, "Okay, we have this, we have this AI. This is what she does. We don't know about foodborne illness, though. We don't know about transit design. So, and we worked with universities on those projects where the professors worked with Polly, our staff worked with them to bring that expertise to the group. And it was a joint effort. And now our team knows how to do those things. So yeah, there's a lot of collaboration with academia, with government, and with experts who know how to do these things.
Yeah. And to what extent are you able to carve out time to, if you like, we have this cliche in the UK about working on the business, not in the business. I mean, given the pace of change, I'm always interested in how people carve out the time to work on the business rather than in the business. Does that make sense? I mean, Darren, how do you deal with that challenge?
It's an ongoing challenge. I do try to, I put stuff in my calendar, like I block off time. I try to keep my meetings because I'm a person, and I think everybody's different here. I think some people can have a deep thought in 5 minutes and then be, distracted. I need to have actually long, a block of time to think uninterrupted. Like it actually causes me psychic pain when I'm in the middle of deep thought and somebody asks me, like it's disrupts me. So I block off time in my calendar. I will often, I find some of my best thoughts are in the evening or on weekends, but I do block off time for just thinking and working on the business and things like that
How
because
and
I
how valuable is that? I mean, if you know, what impact does that have? And if you don't do it, what impact does that have?
Well, I think if you don't do it, you find you fall hopelessly behind and you miss, you don't have that vision for the company. Like you
Mm,
need to be always thinking, not what am I doing right now? The things we're doing right now were planned last year, right?
yeah,
And the things we're going to do in 2027 are being thought out now. Um, so you always have to be, a year ahead with your thinking. Um, so not doing it is not an option. The challenge is, especially when things get really, really busy and you're under the gun and there's too many things to do. And this is again where having all these tools really helps you to get through the minutia of life so that you have time to think about the bigger picture, the things that really matter, right? They're going to make you competitive.
yeah, no, absolutely. And those things take time to work through, don't they? That's the other thing that you can't just do it. I'll do that now. I mean, sometimes it just takes a bit of time, doesn't it, to kind of
Yeah.
unlock the kind of thinking. In terms of the way the business has grown, have you had any unexpected sort of moments or surprises that have come and you thought, God, I didn't think it's going to turn out like that?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yes, too many names, and a lot of ups and downs and
Yeah.
disappointments and things that look like it's going to go this way and then it doesn't, and so I've learned not to ride the ups and downs. I've learned to not get excited when things look amazing,
Mm.
and just it's never easy. Put it that way. At least my journey. It's never been everything we've done and every growth we've had has been, you know, earned through hustle and clawing and things like that. There's never been a break. There's never been, anything handed. Now, that I don't know if that's unique to us. I think some people do have great breaks and things like that, but for us, it's
I
always
mean,
being a
most
startup
entrepreneurs I
is.
talk to talk about kind of having to fight their way through. You know, they get
Yeah.
a break eventually, but often it is a bit of a battle. I totally, I mean, I always think about it as a bit of a roller coaster, you know, good days and bad days and so on. Well, you mentioned the kind of bad days, the tough days. I mean, what would you say is the biggest headache you've got at the moment?
Uh, well, let's see. Uh, we are doing some systems integration work with
Right,
partners like that want to integrate Polly into their workflow, and that's a challenge. um, you're constantly deciding trade-offs and
mm,
phases. How do we work it? How do we do that? It's been probably a bigger challenge than I'd hoped in
right.
some cases. But I think when we do a few of them, then we'll get better, right? Um, and we're learning to architect the product so that it is something that can be integrated more easily, right? API be people's backend than being a standalone product. It will always have the standalone product, but it's pretty clear for us now that there's a lot of demand to have it built into people's existing
Yeah.
ecosystems.
Yeah, they want it as part. They want it as part of the workflow, don't they? And I mean, that's also it's not just tough on the CEO; it's tough on the team, isn't it? I mean, how do you kind of equip your team to deal with those sorts of challenges?
Well, the one thing we did is we hired somebody who's an expert in that type of thing because it
Right,
was obviously something we were missing on the team. And like I said, it's clear that there's quite a bit of demand for that.
right.
So we brought in somebody. And so now I think it's going much more smoothly. But of course, this person has to re-architect quite a few things too. So there's a bit of tech debt there. So, but I think once we've done that, it'll be a product that we can much more easily plug in
Yeah.
to existing systems.
And you were just talking before we came on. You were just talking about being on holiday in Ireland. I mean, how do you equip your team to make difficult decisions if you're not there? I mean, have you had? I mean, the thing about working with clients is that anything can happen, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say, oddly enough, this was like one of the first holidays where I completely unplugged. Like, I
Right.
mean, I didn't
Okay.
completely unplug. I had my cell phone. If they needed me, they could reach out. But I was pleasantly surprised. The team was amazing at not reaching out. Usually I'm like this on the holidays, or I have been in the past. I think it comes to having some seasoned staff who, have been with us for a while. Like we have staff that have been with us for since the beginning, so they understand how things are going along. And before I left, we were very clear on what was going to take place while I was gone, right? So we're working on this, and this. I mean, I was only gone for like a week and a half, so it wasn't like I was gone for a month. so so, and fortunately, I mean, we did have one kind of surprise thing happen while I was gone, but the reality is, I don't think there was much that could have been done about it anyway. So,
Right.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's being very clear about what we're trying to achieve while I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always a bit of a challenge that I think because in one sense you have the thing about the CEO is you always have knowledge that other people don't necessarily have, and sometimes that's really important in those situations. I mean, sometimes it's not, but so it's always a bit of
Yeah.
an issue. I think that. I mean, in terms of mistakes, I mean, what would you say has been your biggest mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Not replacing people fast enough when
Right.
when they're not performing. Um, that's my biggest mistake.
And what was the
Yeah.
cost of that? I mean, what impact did that have?
Delays, having to do rework, fixing errors then, that takes a long time to repair. So I think when you've just got to, um, you know, you've just got to be able to detect better when somebody's not delivering,
Yeah.
and that they're not going to, despite some people are not delivering, and it's obvious. And it's not that I don't have um, the ability to let people go, but there's other times where you know it's less clear, or they're good at covering their tracks or things like that. So you've got to be very careful that everyone is delivering and that you've got those checks and balances.
Yeah. I mean, those are always difficult decisions, aren't they? And how do you, as the CEO, how do you handle making decisions that are going to make you unpopular? I mean, we all want to be loved, you know, but
Yeah.
part of the
I
thing
think
about
I've
being the
given up on
CEO is
that.
sometimes you have to make tough decisions. I mean, how do you handle those ones where you think I'm going to be unpopular after this?
I'm still learning that. Um,
Oh,
I think I've given up on popularity. I think you have to learn, and I was actually just talking to a friend about this not long ago. It's learning those communication skills. I find you have to involve the person that you're talking to in the conversation. So it's not, this is what's happening, you did this. It's, how did you find this, right? Tell me about this. And having them come to the realization that this isn't working out. Because if it's not working out, it's not just not working out for me. It's probably also not working out for you, right? Because you're probably sweating bullets a little bit because you're not delivering. You're not, I got to think, unless you're a completely self-delusional person, but some of those exist as well. But it's helping that person to understand why you know,
mm,
why you're coming to these conclusions, and have them come along with you, right? And then helping them to understand that, look, there's this place for you, but obviously this is
mm,
not working out, right? Like this is not a good place for you, obviously, but there is a place for you that's good, and you're going to be a much happier person when you're in that place.
yeah.
So,
And have those experiences changed your views about what effective leadership means?
yes,
In what way?
yes.
In what way have they changed it?
Um, that I think the captain goes down with the ship, right? Like, I mean, the this is your job as the leader, is to make those tough decisions and be that take it on the chin, be that unpopular person if you need to. Um, Somebody told me once an analogy that has been really helpful for me, and I tell it to myself all the time. If you were the CEO of an airline company and you had a pilot who you thought wasn't great at his job or her job, but you felt bad letting them go. They've got a difficult family situation. And this is what I mean. Like sometimes it's easy to make the decision, but other times, oh, this person's in a terrible situation. Their
Mm.
spouse has cancer. I mean, okay, I'm not, feeling bad. Let's see if we can like work with you and pull you up by the bootstraps. Okay. But if you're the CEO of an airline and you have an incompetent pilot and then he crashes the plane and 400 people die, how are you going to feel then? You're going
Mm.
to feel like you should have taken that decision, right? And look, he doesn't, maybe being a pilot's not in his future. He can do something else. And it's just that as the leader, because if you let things go, other people might lose their job, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't know everybody's situation. All you can know is your job is to make sure that you're protecting all of your staff and and the company and your investors and ultimately your customers, right? So yeah, you
I
you
mean,
have to make those decisions.
the easy decisions aren't the problem, are they? I mean, it's the hard
Yeah,
ones that land on
yeah,
your desk, particularly as the company grows. I mean, then you get more and more of the awkward, messy, difficult problems that land on your desk because nobody else can sort them out or wants to sort them out.
yeah. Well, I've also had like customers, and this is an age-old thing you hear all the time in tech companies, right? Like, should OpenAI? We had a case here in Canada where um, a a person shot some kids in a school, and it turned out that he had done some of his research, or she, I can't remember what it was, on OpenAI or
I was
one
reading
of the
about that.
LLMs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, and should the company have, revealed this person to the authorities? Well, it's very difficult because as a tech company, first of all, you're always told privacy, privacy, privacy.
yeah,
And if you reveal information, you could be sued for that. I think it's very unclear, and governments, I think, are shirking responsibility by not making it clear when you should reveal things. But I've had issues too because people use my tech for research, right?
yeah,
And we don't look at what people are using it for, but sometimes they publicize it, they print it, they and sometimes in our company it might be for things that causes political or what have you that the staff don't agree with and they get upset and they want us to pull the, oh,
yeah,
don't let this person
yeah,
be a customer. Well, the research is not illegal, right? It might not be what you like, it
yeah.
might not be coming up to conclusions that you like, but you like, how am I to say to a customer, well, we don't like what you're researching, so we've decided to
Yeah.
stop your
They're
license
difficult
to
issues,
Mass
aren't they?
Poly.
They're difficult issues.
Yeah,
If they were easy to resolve those kind of challenges, it would be anyone could do
yeah,
it. That's what makes them interesting, but also challenging. I mean,
yeah.
maybe Mark Carney will watch this interview and he might pay attention. You never know. He might, who knows?
That would be
So,
great.
and when just to come back to the decision making thing, because that's a big interest to me. What would you say has done the most damage? Bad decisions or decisions that you've delayed? I mean, you talked about not dealing with a person that perhaps you should have managed out of the business. I mean, is it bad decisions that cost, or is it delayed decisions? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I probably want to give it more thought, but honestly, at the top of my head, I would say delayed,
Yeah, you're
because
not the only
those are
person
the
that
ones
says
that you
that.
probably regret the most
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. Well, you know that you can see things going horribly wrong, can't you? Whereas if you
Yeah,
dealt with it, it would be gone. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's an odd one that I think. Um,
Yeah, and
you
a
know,
delayed decision can be a bad decision in and of itself, right? That's
yeah, yeah, yeah. And let me ask you about the systems for learning from that. I mean, what do you do with, I'm not talking about you as an individual, but as a company. How do you make sure that those lessons are learned? I mean, it's very easy to say, oh, we write the lessons down, and all the, what's your take on the most effective way of making sure the business learns those lessons when they move forward, so they can move forward?
we talk about it, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes when we've made changes internally, I find the best way is to say, okay, what do we think is going to happen when we make this change and
Right.
document it, and then come back after we've made it and say, hey, was this as disastrous as we thought it would
Yeah,
be,
yeah,
or was it as good as we thought it would be? And so we've made some tough, really tough decisions. And I was things that honestly I make a decision and think, geez, I don't know if like if this is good or not. This is a big risk that we're taking. And it turned out well. And to go, and then you remember those the next time you have a big decision to make that is perhaps similar. You say, okay, you know what? I thought I couldn't survive that before, but I did. And it actually thrived, like it was a turn for the company and a turn for the better. Sometimes I've been very surprised myself at how making a difficult decision, not only did we were we okay, we actually thrived because of it.
yeah,
It forced a change that ended up being good.
yeah.
So,
I mean, it's interesting you say that. My experience has often been that I worry about things not going to plan. And you think, well, if it doesn't go to plan, the outcome will be bad. Well, sometimes if it doesn't go to plan, the outcome's good. I mean, I've had quite a few of those when,
yeah.
which kind of you think, well, there isn't necessarily a correlation between this decision and that outcome. Or if it is, it's not necessarily, they're not completely causal, if you see what I mean. Which I always think is an interesting, because we always assume if we do this, it will lead to that. It doesn't always happen that way, does it?
No, hardly ever. And I think I've come to the conclusion, you know, how sometimes they say, do we have predestination or are we in control of our environment? We're not, right? Because there's just so many factors playing that even your best laid plan, you can't anticipate what other people are doing. And so you do the best you can with the information you have.
Hope.
And you'll often have naysayers telling you, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." Like, "Oh, that's that's a huge risk." And but you do it, and like just wow, like it turned out, and not like I said, not just we survived, but actually we
Yeah.
thrived. And then we look back and go, wow, we didn't realize how good it would be after we made that change.
Yeah. Talking of looking back, let me ask you, if you were to start from scratch, is there anything you do differently with the benefit of hindsight?
Oh, for sure. Lots of things. But like I said, I think I'm a much, I would say, smarter person now than I was when I started the
Uh-huh.
company. So I think the experience you could never learn it except by doing it, right? And that's why I always say I hope I have enough energy in me to do like a second company or something so that I could learn because you
Yeah.
learn so much and be ashamed to lose all this and you can't just tell somebody, right? You can't say, well, here's everything I learned or write a book and
Yeah.
no, you have to live it. Um, but I've been through everything, lawsuits, um, uh, founders leaving the business, like you name it. I've had pretty much every experience you could have. And I can honestly say the hardships make you stronger.
Yeah.
It makes you. I say I was fortunate to have a lawsuit early in the founding of the company, early in the early days, and that has made the company very, very. We're it was a great experience. Let me put it that way, because our systems are very tight and everything now. So.
I mean, it's such an interesting question, I think, because if you want to equip people to cope with difficult circumstances, you have to make life difficult for them because you learn about dealing with difficult stuff by having to deal with difficult stuff. You don't learn about it by reading a book, do you? I mean, you might
Yeah.
get some ideas, but
Right.
you learn about resilience by having to be resilient, if you see what I mean, which is interesting. I always think it's a really interesting sort of experience. That let me flip. We'll ask you the same question in a slightly different way. If you were to offer one piece of advice to a rookie CEO, what would it be?
Hmm. I would say make sure that when the times are good, you really celebrate. Like, don't see it as, oh, okay, like really make sure that you enjoy, because you will have ups and downs.
Yeah,
Like it's pretty much guaranteed. And it's not like you achieve a level and then now it's just smooth sailing from here. That it's always ups. I assume it's always ups and
yeah.
downs, right? I'm many years
That's been
into
my
this.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah. And So when it's good, I'm not saying assume it's going to be good forever because it's not, but make sure you breathe that in and you enjoy it, right? Um, yeah, you really enjoy it because I think those good times are what get me through. The memory of, hey, it was, really, and I can get there again is what gets me through the troughs, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and to also understand right at the very beginning that it's never going to be all good, it's never going to be all bad, right? It's always going to be somewhere between, and the bad times will turn around.
Yeah.
So, and I would say stick it out because I think a lot of people give up on their business too quickly, and it's tempting. I get it, but it's like you said, you get better and your company gets better for those troughs. You make changes, those changes stick, they become part of the ecosystem, they become part of the culture. And like I said, the employees learn it. And so um, I think it's not over until it's completely over, right? So
Yeah, great. I mean, great advice, Erin. I really appreciate it, and I think your point about celebrating the good stuff. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. If you can't celebrate the good stuff, I mean, you're just in the wrong game, I think. So great advice. I mean, thank you for. I mean, what a great way to end that conversation. I mean, I really appreciate you making the time to come and talk about that. I mean, it sounds like you've been on a really interesting journey, and by the sounds of things, lots of exciting stuff coming up as well, which must be really great. And you never know. I mean, Mark Carney might be watching the podcast and might change something. You never know. So thank you for coming on and sharing that.
great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye bye.